I wanted to talk about your role as representing the technology organization at the M&A conversation and how you strategically approached the TSA, because to me that seems like an under-leveraged tool to really accelerate your tech innovation. So, can you just share a little bit more about, what was your role as the tech executive and the representative of the tech organization, and how did that relate to the TSA structuring?
I think one thing at Fox that's cool is that our CTO, my boss, Paul Cheeseborough, is very much in like the top leadership team, right? And the decision to sell to Disney, like he was in that discussion, right? So we knew from the very beginning when this deal was going to happen, so we could be prepared to help structure the deal in a way that was strategic. I think often technology orgs, like they learn about something, it's like make it happen. And one thing that we intervened on very quickly, because we were at the table for like how should we structure the deal, was to do something that was quite counterintuitive, I think, and very controversial, which was to say, let's essentially value all of our current technology assets at near zero and make them part of the deal. So we weren't going to be able to
Wow.
change the deal price. Like the price was, Iger Murdoch, right? Okay, so that was defined. But the what was in the deal, was like what the teams then were kind of tasked with figuring out. So we weren't going to be able to say like, oh, we think our broadcast facility, like we invested at least $600 million in capital over the last 3 years. It's probably about the right number. You know, we want you to pay for that. Like that wasn't going to be a thing, right? It was like, no, you take it, right? And then so by default, we said, well, you're buying the business. Really, you're buying 70% of the business. So we're going to by default put all the technology into that, and then we're going to have the right to claw stuff back. So, we made the determination, for example, like at the time I was also running our streaming team, engineering team. And so we said, actually, we've been working for the last year on a brand new, from scratch platform rebuild of our entire streaming architecture. That is actually exactly what we want to be in for the future. So we're going to take that back so we can keep building on it, right? But you are going to take our core broadcast facility. And then you're going to provide that back to us as a service under the TSA. This was hard, I mean, mainly because like if you're a technology person who's been working at Fox for 20 years, it's like, I don't know, it seems kind of like a gut punch, like, oh, I've been working on this for 20 years, and essentially this is now you're giving all my work away for free. Like that was, I think, very hard for some people to internalize.
But it sounds
And
like
let
the free part was more of just like how it all kinda added up and rolled up
Right.
to the
But
beginning.
that's
Okay.
like the narrative you could tell yourself if you were
Yeah,
thinking about it unstrategically, in my
totally.
view. It was like, oh, like I've worked on this forever and you've given it away. Right. But our view was if we by default put stuff into the deal. So we by default we're giving it to you. Then we peel back the things that actually accelerate our ability to deliver the future state architecture. Then we essentially have the green field to go out and build that, versus what is the reality in a large company like ours often, which is like you're working in parallel and then you always have to have these like integration points. So it's like, oh, well, let's cut over this part of the capability. Something inevitably goes wrong. There's an integration challenge. It sets you back 2 months, right? And so we basically got rid of all those integration challenges. And because otherwise it'd be quite, I've never seen a company just like actually build a whole parallel infrastructure for 2 years and then like flip a switch. I mean, that rarely doesn't happen. That's effectively what we were able to do. So that was the like it was really my boss, I think, the CTO, who had the vision for this. And then I was so excited. I advocated for exactly how to do it so much because it so accelerated zero trust. I was like, oh, if we're building we're giving you the network. I mean, they managed our network, like on the lot for 2 years. Like, and so we could rebuild our entire new network. I mean, we had a construction project to do in 2 years, a 400,000 square foot ground up build of a building in Phoenix, and had to hire 200 people from scratch because we had never had a presence in Phoenix before, or Tempe. That was the risky thing to do. I mean, it was a huge, and we really had to put our neck on the line and say, we can do this. Right. Because of course the risk would be like, we actually can't do it. And then in 2 years, like the lights go off and there's no alternative. I mean, like the stakes are pretty high, to actually be able to deliver.
So I think it was so cool to see how at the very beginning the technology organization was brought in is let's make this a huge strategic opportunity for us and set it up in the right way. What are the questions that you asked at the beginning to identify the right strategy, or how did you all kind of formulate the right approach here?
I mean, some of it was actually just, I think, trying to ground the conversation a little bit, which is like, well, some of it is like, well, where do we want to? This is a huge moment. So, like, at a minimum, it's going to force a ton of change. The new company was going to be essentially 40% the size of the previous company. So, we need to make personnel decisions, right? So, like, core questions: what's the team we want to have in the future, right? And so, again, by default, we put everyone into Disney and then pulled people out. That's also kind of hard to stomach, right? For some people. So some of it says, well, there's two things, like these macro questions, like what is the team we want for the future? What do we think, and what are the skills we think we're going to need to deliver, like to be able to continue to innovate the pace we want to through the future? And that might be a different set of skill sets than we were looking for 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We had some employees who've been there for 25 years at Fox. So those are kind of the high level strategic things. And then it was like grounding it, like, well, we have the Super Bowl next year, the biggest moment in live television ever. Always, it always sets records, it always breaks all previous television records. So, like, how would we do this? Are we willing to take the risk of someone else having such a large responsibility? But of course, the alternative is, well, if they buy National Geographic, we're never working on National Geographic again. National Geographic is totally unstrategic to Fox, but I'm going to be spending my time as a technology leader helping National Geographic be successful for 2 years. That means I'm not going to spend time on what the future of Fox is. So that was that was like the galvanizing moment. It's like, what is the key leadership going to be spending its time doing? And if we hold back our technology, then we're going to have to service the businesses they bought, because you can't just flip it over day one. Someone has to operate that technology. So either we're operating it or you're operating it. And it was seen as very unstrategic for the people we were saying, all right, these are the people we want to build the future of Fox. Oh, but for 2 years they're going to be entirely distracted running businesses for Disney. Like that was a bad place to be. So it was like, well, those were our options. It's like either our leadership team and our core team is going to be focused running other people's business. We'll get paid for it, but like our goal is not to be like a service provider, right? We want to create our own business, or we take the risk, they service us. I mean, they're a real company. Disney's like a huge company, so it was risky, right? But it's not like an unknown quantity, right? We knew the technical team over there was extraordinarily competent, right? They were going to have service level agreements with us that were very strict, that we had to design. So that's kind of how, when we thought about it that way, that I think was kind of the aha moment.